Efficiency Unlocked is hosted by two tech-savvy physicians and dear friends of mine, Doctors Adam Karu and Dale Gold, who are experts in using technology to automate routine tasks and increase efficiency in everyday and business life. Let's see what they have for us today.
Stay tuned for this series of episodes where we'll be discussing the game-changing impact of AI in the realm of patient care and physician well-being.
Get ready to unlock efficiency with NerdMDs.
Efficiency Unlocked.
And at this point, we just started talking to doctors. We started talking to nurses, surgeons, and started seeing they really have a need to this. And then we started looking into the problem. We started seeing it's beyond just transcribing, it's beyond implementation, it's beyond administrative work. It could actually help physicians and doctors diagnose better. So it was beyond just, it could actually help patients.
That was Ahmed Omar, a 3-time gold medal champion MMA fighter. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Sully.ai. At a young age of 13, Omar saw how online commerce solved a vast supply and demand problem, making him eager to learn more about it. Being an MMA fighter gave him the tools to understand where determination and discipline can take him. He found his passion when he built an e-commerce brand in New York City, taking it from 0 to 55 million in about 3.5 years. Omar and I had a great conversation that we're about to share about how he and his co-founders have taken Sully.ai to the next level and where they want to take it in the future. We hope you enjoy this show. Why don't you start with, kind of sharing your journey? I mean, I introduced you a bit, like a very condensed version of you, but share your journey and the inspiration behind why you wanted to help create an AI healthcare product or solution. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, I loved it. So actually, after building the e-commerce company, I decided to build an actual technology company, because e-commerce is more on the growth side. It's more physical products. It's more, SEO, growth engines, CAC. It's more growth than actual tech technology.
Sure.
And at this point, I wanted to build a technology company. I didn't know what I wanted to build, but I was in New York City, went back to Egypt. I'm Egyptian, but born and raised in Dubai. I went back to Egypt to visit family, and one of my friends, I'm kind of attracted to solving some problems. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, I can't find any part, for my car, any car parts." And I'm like, "Why? Google it." He's like, "There's no way. You can try." And I Googled it, and I tried, went everywhere to look for it. I went basically to Google. I spent 2 hours looking for a phone number, found the phone number, found an address, went to the address, and then they couldn't pick up the phone. And went for 2 hours. And then I left home. I went down to a market, found the parts, and then delivered it to my friend. And I made maybe $20 at this point. And for me, he was like, "Oh, if you can scale this, if you could do this to everyone in Egypt, that's gonna be that's gonna make millions." And 2.5 years later, we did. It was, and I started building this marketplace that is automotive marketplace that could get supply to their parts, and then car owners to buy their parts and easily find it with just a simple search. And we did that. And with 2.5 years later, there's 1.8 million people in Egypt who went on the platform. There was 100,000 users. We generated over $14 million in annual run rate. We scaled to 2 other countries than Egypt, Dubai and Saudi. So
wow,
this experience was really a technology experience. It was more back end, front end, supplier dashboards, apps, phone app, Arabic and English. We had to duplicate everything for Arabic and English.
Yeah.
And it was the first, technology experience that people could actually go on a platform or on an app, download an app and buy something. And for me, it was, and that's basically how we met, me and Nasser. Nasser, I got introduced to Nasser from one of my co-founders from one of the suppliers. The supplier told me, "Oh yeah, I interviewed a crazy guy 2 years ago." And he's one of them, he's a genius. I think he told us how to run a business, but we closed the position. And then I met Nasser and we just clicked. And together we built like this marketplace that grew beyond what we expected. At some point, while building the company and growing it fast, we knew this is not going to be the last company, because we knew it's not a big enough market. It's just a problem that I started to solve, and it just scaled very quickly. And at this point, when we took like some US VC money, YC and all these things, they made us realize that when you're spending your time, the most valuable time is like your time. And if you're going to spend it building something that is not going to scale beyond 50, 60, $100 million 10 years from now, it doesn't really make sense that you need to build it. And at this point, we started basically to question, what do we really want to do? What do we really want to spend our time on? And this was like a life-changing question, I would say. Like, what would we spend the next 10 years on that we don't feel like work? Nasser at this point had chronic illness. I grew up, my mom misdiagnosed with polio, so they didn't need to give her feed, so she never walked. So it felt like the past 10 years of building companies, technology companies, had come to like this point that we can build something that could change people, that can impact people's lives. And we didn't know what we were going to build. I'm not going to tell you I've been working on this problem for the past 10 years or something. No, we just came to the Bay Area. YC helped us get here. And we started basically building a few things. We started talking to a lot of people. We had a few encounters. Nasser had a few encounters with the healthcare system. And it was and then he's like, Omar, I think you need to go to the doctor and like see how the healthcare system is designed. And we went to Kaiser, we went to biggest organizations, we went to smaller practices. And it was really weird. Like, it was like, wait, was this the only industry without any innovation in the past like 30 years? It was like, did they forget healthcare or something? Like, did every founder just say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do healthcare? And then we were a bit naive because we were new in the Bay Area 2 years ago. We didn't know a lot of things. And for me, the only way to know is to like choose the lowest level position that you could choose. And it was like the front desk assistant. I worked as a front desk assistant behind like a desk in one of the clinics in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
And that was like, this is going to help us decide either we want to build in this problem or not. And the initial idea was basically to build a doctor, basically, or an AGI doctor, a version of the doctor that could prescribe something for you until you see a doctor. And looking at this, it didn't make sense that we need to get this to life when half the doctors times are spent in talking documentation. Like most of the doctors' time are just gone because of documentation. So it didn't make sense to build another version while we can double or triple the doctors in the world by removing these stupid, administrative tasks. And yeah, this was like when I worked behind the desk. We started with a billing, product, and then we thought that billing is never going to be solved if there's a misinformation from all over, from the time the patient comes in until he leaves. So we started building agents, AI agents to help, intake, check in, and scribe, and then also communicate with patients. And because they all have and run on the same language model, they have 100% context about this patient and about the doctor and about what the doctor said to the patient and about what the patient answered in the new questions, all these things. And yeah, at this point we said like, we can disrupt healthcare. We disrupted the automotive industry, knowing nothing about automotive. We can do that. And we had half the team that we had, like the team in UAE, like the leadership team wasn't even half as good as the team we have today. So yeah, we decided to take this opportunity. It all resonated. Chaitanya, our CTO and co-founder, had 2 years of chronic illness dealing with the US healthcare system, and has a really interesting story how we met. And yeah, Sully Chen built an AI medical assistant. He couldn't ship it to doctors. He couldn't deliver it to real users. And when he saw us, then we gave it to real doctors and users. He's like, oh shit, you guys were able to give it and get doctors to use it. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I could do everything, but not that. And yeah, Sully is one of the GPT-4 contributors. So I think the team just came together, aligned on the vision, and we just basically started working on Sully.ai. And at this point, everything just made sense. Everything just, came in place. The clinic that I was working behind the desk, we acquired it as a customer, and then And then, and then
Very cool.
etc. I would say,
Yeah. So what is like, I was going to ask you your why, but like clearly you just answered the why. So we don't need to go into that. But I guess just for context, so when did this like first iteration of Sully.ai kind of start? What was the timeline roughly? Like when you were, when you like tried to explore that billing product, and what's the timeline from that until like today?
Yeah. So I think the first encounter we had with healthcare was June 2022. And then we started building something for the doctors, a transcribe tool that can help them transcribe. And then we started basically turning it into medical notes. And then we started showing it to them. Like before even building anything, we just like, did a simple,
like a MVP product, like just kind of,
And actually we had a hardware used into that. So we were using a smart glasses hardware. So it was like, like a lot, it was a lot of changes and a lot of components to it. And at this point we just started talking to doctors. We started talking to nurses, surgeons, and started seeing like they really have a need to this. And then we started looking into the problem. We started seeing it's beyond just transcribing. It's beyond documentation. It's beyond administrative work. It could actually help physicians and doctors diagnose better. So it was beyond just, it could actually help patients down the line.
Yeah.
Basically be proactive about their healthcare, Yeah. And at this point we just decided that with this problem, like one human, one doctor, the vision of the company is to bring a doctor to every human on the planet. One human, one doctor. Would that be something we not feel like we're doing it for the next 10, 20 years? And it was like, yes, it would. And in September, basically I took a job behind the desk in one of the clinics. And then we actually started building the product in February because we were leading a lot of technology. I think that's a mistake a lot of people do. They bring the technology up front and then they try to sell it. But we wanted to lead with the problem first, understand deeply the problem. Where does every dollar go from, like the insurance, like from your personal, as patient personal insurance, you pay for insurance, and then you go to the doctor, you pay a copay, and then you have to pay a bill if you pass the deductible. So we tracked every single thing, the revenue cycle, the dollar amount, and we just wanted to understand it deeply before building something. So when we build, we have a lot of context about what is needed, what is desired, and what is really not there, what is really useful or nice to have. And we did that in Feb. We had Chaitanya join us as CTO. He's Chaitanya, like PhD in robotics, built Google Assistant, like he built like massive technology at Google, 25 patents. So he just resonated with what the problem, and we all aligned on the vision, which is really hard sometimes. A lot of the time, the team can align on what you do today, but they're not aligning on the vision. But the first thing we make sure is everyone is aligned on the vision. We know what this product will look like 10 years from now. So I think the timeline I would say we started talking to doctors was in June 2022.
Got it. No, that's good. That's good context. And everything you said there just resonates. I mean, the thing I was thinking, a couple thoughts, you were talking about like understanding the problem first, and like that is like so foundational to, everything in healthcare, but everything frankly in the world could operate in that same way. And, the thing I stand by is let's figure out like a problem to go after. Then, like what you mentioned, you don't jump right to the technological solution. Even though I love technology, I'm always thinking, okay, what could be the solutions to this? But it's like, then you have to understand the people that are doing this problem and the process they're following, because all of that part can be kind of optimized or potentially changed too before you land on the actual kind of technological solution that augments it all. So no, that's spot on. I'm sure we could talk here for hours on this topic alone. I think you talked about this already a bit in what you just said, but kind of leading into the impact of, where this technology is. And I want you to share a bit about, what Sully.ai already is doing in this space. You gave me obviously a little bit early kind of preview demo of the product. And, I'll just say I was particularly impressed with
some of the front end solutions that you guys have, like, the kind of pre-gathering of information from a patient. So I definitely want you to share that. But, I just want you to share like kind of why you think this space is so important and that kind of halo impact that it's going to have, on the healthcare industry.
I think it resonates. I think so when I look at it, so I'll tell you, I'll answer you the first part of your question of what Sully is.
Sure.
So Sully.ai is an all-in-one copilot that is built to remove all the administrative work off of doctors, day to day. So what this means, what does an all-in-one mean? So we particularly designed Sully to an AI agent-like experience. So, and this is the reason we did this is because I work behind the desk. So I saw that each and every person, administrative worker, is like an agent that conflicts. So they conflict each other, but they also do each other's work, but they all have context about a certain patient. So the reason we built it, so what we did is an all-in-one AI agent for healthcare is simply we built an AI check-in, AI nurse, triage nurse, where it can take all the interview questions, take all the medical information from you, and then basically regenerate or dynamically personalize the intake for you or the check-in for you. So if you said, I came in because I have flu, and let's say you, Adam, like I said I have flu, and you said you have flu, it's a totally different set of questions. It's not the same because my medical history is different than yours. And that's how it should be, right? Because healthcare is really specific. And since transformers came to play, there wasn't really a way that you could personalize at scale. You could do it with templates, all these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the biggest industry that uses templates is the healthcare industry. It's because you're trying to personalize, but there's actually an infinite amount of templates that you need to use. So the reason we think this resonates a lot. So yeah, like an AI triage nurse. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get back to this. The AI triage nurse, and then once the patient walks into the room, the information that it's being discussed with the doctor is really important because it's not only that it can help doctors document, which is key, saves them 2 hours a day, 1 to 2 hours a day. They love it. Doctors, like yesterday we asked one of the doctors there at Health Partners, one of the big organizations in Minnesota, and we asked her, what would your life be without Sully? So it would be miserable. So because we removed a lot of documentation time from her, but we also, it's not about that, because the AI, like the human scribe inside the clinic, doesn't only document. They also send pharmacy orders, like lab orders. They can call the customers at some point. So we want the AI scribe agent to do all this as well. Add the orders in your chart to remind the patients as well, 2 weeks, because you and the doctor discussed it. And all these tasks didn't really make sense that it shouldn't exist. Like an AI automated AI agent, an AI support agent. Why does a doctor need to reply to the insurance company? There's data, there's CPT codes, there's ICD-10 codes. You can just generate responses and just make it ready for doctors to send, or you can just automatically send it if it has nothing to do with the medical or any health, related questions regarding the patient. So we started looking at these things. And one of the things that we saw most companies do is that in healthcare, specifically in the US, is that they say, oh no, we cannot prescribe or we cannot recommend the diagnosis because we need FDA. And the way we started building is, why do we really need FDA? If we could just generate it, show it to the doctor. If they want to use it, they can use it. If they don't, they can just edit it and just close the note. As long as we're not closing notes, we're not doing the final, approvals, we don't really need FDA. At this point, we can start training the models and improving it based on the closed notes that the doctors are closing and the generated output by the model, and then run a dice score to see the similarities. So we started looking at like all these things that could train models, make them better, and also at the same time help doctors get like a lot of things done, and build it in an agent-like model. Like, doesn't mean that you want a scribe AI agent that it's just going to scribe for you. No, it could do other things. It could send an email for you. You could chat with it. You could ask it about the whole database of the questions, removing all the clicks, from Epic, I would say. So, so it doesn't mean that it's a scribe, it will just scribe. And this way, this approach didn't really resonate with us. We didn't like that. The doctor can still ask a human scribe what happened with this patient on Thursday, right? You can't do that now with any scribe on the market, but you can do that with Sully now. So this is like, the way we built it is like, we built it with this approach, if you know what I mean, like an agent-like approach.
Yeah. No, this is fascinating, actually. This is even more, I'm getting more out of this than our initial conversation in the demo, which I figured we would. And, I just think it's so worth to reflect on a couple of things you said. I mean, one, I think this agent approach, and being that kind of true kind of co-pilot to be able to do all those helping hand things that are a part of delivering care is fascinating. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of the listeners. I think the other thing you brought up, which, I think is a hot topic right now, is this whole, FDA approach to approving, different algorithms that are in healthcare. But I think to your point, and you're right, the FDA really just wants to regulate digital devices that kind of make a determination that continues down the path. But like you're saying, if it's really all about surfacing this information for the human to actually make that ultimate decision. And, that's the thing that we're, even this technology, creating a note for a physician or a nurse is so transformative. But I think that you guys are seeing that future potential of where this is going. And, I like to call it the tsunami wave that is just starting to build. And that's where we are right now. And it's that wave is going to get huge, and hopefully, all of us will be able to ride it in a positive way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what you just got into was honestly, the differentiator, which I do want to give, everyone a voice to explain that. And, do you have do you want to fine tune what that question and specifically for the listeners, where you think Sully is fundamentally different than, any of the current kind of competitors, or potentially even where they're going that you know of?
Yeah. So one of the things that we I saw when I worked behind the desk in Santa Clara at this clinic was that I witnessed how nurses, how, MDs, doctors work on the software and use tools. That was one of the things that I really wanted to see. And I really wanted to observe. And doing that, I also saw people selling software. So I saw salespeople coming and selling software. One of the biggest problems that I had was that doctors needed to use an average of 4 to 6 tools to solve basically the same problem. So they only use intake queue for intake, and then link it with their Dr. Chrono, which has intake as well. And then link it with Spruce to send a message, which has a patient portal, but they still use Spruce. So the way we looked at it is that there's not really a company that's solving the whole problem. And it's the same problem at the end. What they're doing is the same problem. It's administrative problem.
Yep.
And the way we saw it is that everyone is just trying to sell something to the doctors. But the way we looked at it is what is the real problem and how can we solve it for good? And the way we did it is that, think about Sully as a brain that is connected to every healthcare provider, healthcare system, like Waystar for insurance information, Availity for insurance and verification. It's linked with Twilio for SMSs. It's linked with Palbox for HIPAA compliant email. It's linked with all these tools that are independent of your EMR. So for example, if you wanted to do a certain or automate a certain task, it won't really need your EMR's API. You can integrate it, but it will just say, okay, we can, you could just send it. It will just send it for you. So you can say, today you can say, hey, Sully, can you send an email? I'm not sure if Nasser showed you the new demo, they will say, hey, Sully, can you send an email? And it will automatically send it by just the voice prompt. So
yeah, very cool.
So the way we solve the healthcare is all of them are trying to sell all these tools, but the way we really wanted to solve is how can we really solve this problem for good? And the way to do it was to build to take a universal approach to it. Is say, what is happening in all these baby steps and all these points, and how can one model automate all this? And that's how we built it. And we saw massive, people are laughing on the calls. People are like, oh my God. People are like, oh yeah, You're like, oh, holy shit, that was going to take me 50 clicks on Epic, all these things. So
Yeah.
I think that's what you want to see. That's what we wanted to see. We spent a year to try to get to this point, but once you get to this point, like it's about a matter of time that you scale this. And I think that's what makes us different. The approach that we took about healthcare, the approach that we took to solve this problem was a little bit different than most companies. It wasn't about selling a scribe or selling you a scheduling tool. It was about solving the whole problem. Because I can sell you a scheduling tool and you can still have the administrative problem. And patients will still say, oh, you didn't follow up with me. Or patients could forget to book the appointment. So all these things just aggravated us. It made us more it made us more driven to solve this problem in the healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. No, go ahead, finish your thought.
And I think you'd always had this subconscious fear when you go to a doctor that they don't really know the latest information about certain things. How are they treating you better? And this was one of the ultimate questions that we wanted to answer to. Like, there's no way doctors can digest 10,000 pages every single hour of research, right? And that's impossible.
Yeah.
But there is a way that the models and transformers can do it. And if they can do it and doctors are using it, they can alert doctors. And this was the second goal that we want to build, basically the diagnosis part of it. And that's the point where we started saying, yeah, for us to do this, we have to have the maximum amount of context about the patient's history, even from other EMRs, not just, not just this or the doctor's EMR. So,
yeah. So just to clarify, you're talking about the health information exchange aspect of this. Like, to really make this the best it can be, it has to be tapping in to all those other sources of health information, which frankly is also a huge problem to fix that has not been solved in the US or the world abound.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is what I believe. And I have believed about a certain vision for other companies, and I thankfully was able to bring that to life. We were able to bring it to life because it was a team. It was always a team. I looked for the team before anything else. So
yeah,
we see the same vision, and I believe we'll make it a reality. We have the capability. We've done it before.
Yeah.
No reason for us not to do it again.
Oh, amazing. Man, we've already been talking for almost a half hour. Time flies, right?
Yeah.
These kind of conversations are so important because I think this is such a hot topic right now. And I think, what a lot of health systems are struggling with right now is like, who do we listen to? Who do we get a pitch from? Because, a lot of times it just comes out as as a sales pitch. But if you had an opportunity, you had 2 minutes to sit with, the CEO of say one of the largest health systems in the United States, but you only had 2 minutes, what would be your pitch to that person to get the next meeting? What would you say to get them convinced to take a look at Sully.ai?
I think I would say we're a team of 4 founders, a GPT-4 contributor, a 15 years Google lead engineer who built Google Assistant and built most of the technology that we use today. And me and my co-founder, we built a previous company, disrupted a massive industry before. We're building an all-in-one AI agent to automate administrative work for the healthcare system and your doctors. Our goal is to remove all the admin burden on doctors, make sure they're not burned out, make sure we give them back time. So you as a healthcare organization can be more efficient and see more patients, which aligns with our vision. We're a small team today, which is good for a healthcare organization because we can customize and tailor each and every agent that we built specifically for your healthcare system. And we can prove that in not just weeks, but in days. We can prove that in numbers because we have many, many doctors working on the tool. And we have testimonials of them saying how many hours it saved them daily. And we integrate with every EMR, with every device, so we can make it super easy for your doctors to use. Whatever they're using today, they can still use. And we can automate all this on the back end. We can remove all the clicks your doctors go through with a fraction of a cost that you will pay to any other AI tool. Our margins are transparent. Our tech is transparent. And something that we have that we know a lot of companies lack is that our product really, really works. and your physician can test it. It works consistently. It won't work one at a time. It works every single time. So I would say that would be the pitch.
All right. Well, if I was a CEO, I would definitely be enticed by that pitch. So good job, Omar. And hopefully some of the listeners are also itching to hear more. To that note, what's the best way to get in touch with you? We'll obviously include this in the post-production notes as well, but what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I don't know. Do you prefer like saying my email out loud? I can say it. It's Omar@Sully.ai. So it's OMAR@Sully.ai. Or people can reach me out on LinkedIn too. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think like anywhere, Twitter, like LinkedIn, whatever people prefer to use. I'm all about user experience. So it's whatever platform they prefer to use, they can reach me on. And my email is my last name, Omar, and @Sully.ai. So,
okay.
So yeah.
Great. No, you better start creating an AI to answer all your emails pretty quick too, because like people are going to be enticed. So let's last
email.
Oh yeah. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I'd love to read each and every email that I'm gonna receive.
No, amazing. No, you've been super responsive to any of like my inquiries, which I really appreciate. So let's hit this like what we call the nerd alert lightning round. It's going to be a series of questions that are kind of familiar across the board for these, but this whole podcast series, but it's just a little bit more to get to know about you. Obviously you've shared a lot already, I think, kind of even personally about your why, but first question, if you could vacation or live anywhere in the world, where would that be and why?
I think vacation, I would say I feel home in the Bay Area, and I haven't got that feeling for a long time. I was born and raised in Dubai, but I would say if I would vacation, I would go to Egypt, see my family and my nieces. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being away from family is tough. I don't live in a different country, but I definitely don't live really close to the majority of my family. But
not in Sonoma.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in the Sonoma County anymore. No. Awesome. What's your, this is another kind of, I guess, softball kind of question, but like, what is your favorite vehicle that's out there, or potentially even like a dream car that, could even be a historic kind of car, classic? Do you have something like that?
I think
in your mind?
I think when I was 7 years old or 8 years old, I drew the design of the Cybertruck. I think every one of it.
That's so cool.
I love the sharp edges of the Cybertruck. So I think I really want to buy this car because I just like the design of it. But I would say it was always the G63, the Mercedes. I think it's just like I resonated with people when I was a kid. It's a very famous car in Dubai too. They customize it, they gold plate it, they do crazy things with it.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of those. Yeah.
The plate numbers are like $9 million and the car is like 400K, and it's like crazy. Yeah, they spend like 20 times more on the G63 than the actual cost of the car. So yeah, I would say G63 resonates with me. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, both of those resonate with me. I definitely have a pre-order in for a Cybertruck as well. For kind of similar reasons. I just think it's so different, but like fundamentally cool at the same time. And I think it's going to be a badass vehicle too.
So I actually, when I had a nice car, I rode a Nissan Sunny car everywhere because I felt like I was paying for more things when I went out with a nice car. It's just like I don't really mind what kind of car I drive, but if I'm gonna buy a car in my garage, it's gonna be the G63. Yeah, but I don't think I'll drive it a lot too. I don't think.
Yeah, the trophy car, right? Yeah. No, makes sense. You're like a big thinker. I think you've already alluded to that multiple times on this episode, but outside of like, your current thing that you're fighting for, what other big problem do you see in the world, in the United States, in other industry, that you think would be worth to potentially solve? Not that you don't have plenty on your plate right now. And why do you think that problem is important to you, to society, or the world?
I think people need a new user experience to use a computing device. Me saying that would be the smart glasses. They looks extremely normal, extremely thin. Components are not there yet. The market is not there yet. But that's a problem that I know. I hate phones, by the way. And if you know that about me, the phone could be anywhere in the office that I don't know where it is. I'm just always on my laptop or just, on Zoom. I don't like the phone. I don't like the phone experience. I don't like you have to look down every time you look at the phone. I don't like the way people look when they hold the phone. I feel like there should be a new computing device and a new user experience to interact with digital things. And I think I don't see it in any other form other than the smart glasses. Some people believe different than that, like Humane and all these companies.
Yeah.
I believe it has to be really close to the eye. So you can see bubbles behind the screen, just flowing and, something just swimming there. And I think with Gen Z's attention span, the only way to get their attention is that.
No, that's
and also helping them mentally as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, those types of devices will obviously be heavily AI driven, right? I mean, it's going to be surfacing that contextual information and analyzing and, answering their questions. Yeah, no, I actually just got the new Meta Ray-Bans. Like they just arrived yesterday, the new version. And, first version I passed on because I was like, these are going to just be a kind of a clunky toy. But I'll tell you. I'll say the second version I'm fairly impressed. I mean, it's not at what you're talking about, but it's like, I think it could get, incrementally to that direction.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing around with those too. I'll take a picture here at the end of our interview so we can share a smart glass photo with the sharing of the episode.
We all can't wait to surface the market because we think the best way doctors can experience healthcare would be using those glasses. If we run multimodal, language models behind the scene and we could assist on what they see, what they do, every single part of it. And at some point, compute is going to be much better, much faster. These models have some latency to it. So I think within time, it's going to be like a life-changing experiences. You could build life-changing experiences with certain hardware. And yeah, I can't wait to even build a study app on one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. What, outside of all this stuff, what like today do you feel it, what today are you using, outside of your own product or anything, but like, what is something you're using today that you just think is like, man, this helps me be so much more efficient than I could be without it. Is there something that you would not want to like give up that you currently use? Can you share what that is? Do you have an idea?
I do have a lot of tools that I use now that I can't live without, but I'm trying to think which one should I mention first. Something that I use today. There's so many things that we use today nowadays. I don't know. I don't want to say a software tool because it's going to be obvious. I'm trying to think of something that is. Are you saying something personal or something?
Yeah, it could be something totally personal. Yeah, I mean, something to just kind of like think of like how it helps you to kind of automate or augment, your life. And it can be something totally like generalizable.
It's something that we're doing. It's not something that I'm using, but there's something that we do in the company every Saturday. And it's really, really not, I'm not trying to talk about Sully, but it's something that I feel it's really pushing us forward. So every Saturday we meet at 3 and we discuss papers, whatever research paper we want to read.
Yeah.
It's something completely like, we were discussing the other day in the stand-up about like, UR2, the nerves between the two brains. If you cut this line, like line of nerves and have a two separate brain in one brain, it will like your right hand's going to stop your left hand, you know what I mean? Or it's going to see some, the language, like the language side wouldn't really understand what this is, but it can draw it. So it's fascinating, like to learn about, a lot of things. So we do that every Saturday. We come up, read a research paper, very cool, and discuss it.
Yeah.
We also sometimes discuss what we can do with it in the company, if there's any use case.
Ah, super cool. That's actually very cool. I love that. I mean, that's like stretching.
Yeah.
Obviously it's stretching your mind and your team's kind of like education and Yeah, because when you start reading some of those papers, it's probably, I mean, it gets very esoteric pretty quickly. That that's super cool.
Yeah.
So this is a little pivot. This will be the last question for me, but like what, there's a lot of talk about, any form of new technology, being kind of like uncontainable, like just being difficult to kind of contain from a societal perspective. What, I mean, in this space, do you have a concern about that, or, maybe the possible kind of solution to that?
I think that's a very good question, by the way. We ask, like, when we were really early in the model and like looking at diagnosis, we'd see like the model recommending alcohol intake for some patients. It was really funny to see. I was like, the doctor told me to drink. I can drive. So it's really funny to watch. But I think the models really react to what we feed it, like what data we give it and what constraints we can give it. I think in healthcare, if we can reduce the number of people that dies from misdiagnosis every year, or misprescription, or, misleading prescriptions, it's about 500,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to cut this into half, or even more than half. And then whatever constraint we can add to the model and make sure it doesn't hallucinate, we could do later. But technically, as we speak, this is achievable, but no one's doing it. And this kind of annoys me. 46 people die every hour from misleading prescription or misdiagnosis. So I think we're missing a point here, saying what this could harm as much as basically saying how this could help. And I think in healthcare specifically, it's really easy to constrain those models. They shouldn't be going, beyond certain point. They just operate in healthcare. I think in the general part of the aspect of it, that you have a big language model that can do everything. This is a little bit, hard to contain because it's not vertically focused.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in healthcare, we found ways to actually contain it without even playing with the language model. We can just prompt it and you can contain it with the prompting. So there's a lot of ways that, like, graph of thoughts, chain of thoughts, all these things was like amazing ways that you could basically, because it's like a brain, basically, it learns, and a brain growing up in an environment that is harmful might harm others. A brain growing up in an environment that is not harmful, and there's a feedback loop of what is right and what is wrong, I think can help contain those models.
Oh, I love that analogy of that's kind of the nature versus nurture type of thing, but that's super cool. Lastly, Omar, do you have any questions for me? I've spent obviously this whole time asking you questions. Do you have a nerd alert question for me?
Yeah, I want to know why Denver.
Why Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah. So full disclosure, we did not prep for this question.
Okay.
So these are always like softballs for me too. But so Denver, my wife and I met in medical school, and we she's from Minnesota, I was from Northern California, and we did what's called a sub internship in our fourth year of medical school out here in Denver at the hospital that we ended up both doing our residency training at. But honestly, we did it, we came out to Denver because, we did those sub-Is over the winter, and we wanted to like do a little skiing and snowboarding. And this was obviously well before having kids. And so we came out, and we honestly just like fell in love with the place. I think, before we knew where we were going to go for residency, we actually made a decision to get married in Colorado, only because as a destination, it was kind of halfway between my wife's family and halfway between where the majority of my family lived. And then we ended up matching here, and we did what's called the couples match, where you can kind of link your two applications together electronically in the system. And so that's how we actually landed here. And I'll be honest, initially I missed the ocean, because living on the coast, it was something I enjoyed having. But I'll tell you, man, Colorado is a cool place. It has everything, I always say, except the ocean. And as long as you can vacation at the ocean, or, have time for that, that's honestly why we've decided to stay here, and we enjoy it. So, good question.
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting, and I really liked when we reached out and basically talked about Nerds MD and what you're trying to do, and yeah, the fact that you have this tech aspect of healthcare is really fascinating to see, and the way you're trying to deliver it with Nerds is really cool. I think we should talk beyond that. This spot.
No, thank you. Happy to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Omar, for joining today. And like I said, we'll definitely continue this conversation offline. But appreciate your time, taking the time on a Saturday. And, we look forward to bigger and better things from Sully.ai.
Amazing, Adam. Thank you so much for having me. And it was, I had a fascinating time. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved, a Nerd MD's podcast by Drs. Adam Carew and Dale Gold.